All right, good afternoon and welcome to today's product demonstration, Gain Traceability of Requirements with IBM Rational DOORS and Jira integration. I'm Chris White, Director of Demand Gen for ConnectAll, and I'll be your moderator. I'm joined today by Jonathan McGowan, Integration Expert and Senior Solutions Architect. During our webinar today, Jonathan will address the why, how, and what of integrating DOORS to Jira, why you should integrate, how the integration works, and what benefits you can gain from the integration. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a couple of housekeeping items. First, you'll see a questions option in the BrightTalk interface. During the presentation, please enter any questions you may have in that window, and Jonathan will address as many as possible at the end of the demonstration. And secondly, today's webinar is being recorded, and you'll receive a notification when it's available. We encourage you to share it with your colleagues and reach out if you have any further questions after the session. I'll now turn it over to Jonathan.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, wherever you happen to be. So today we're going to talk about DOORS and Jira, and we're going to show an integration between DOORS and Jira and how you can get those requirements from DOORS and push them over into Jira so that your other team working over there can begin fulfilling against those requirements. I'll show how they connect. We'll show a little bit about ConnectAll, talk about some value stream management, and then we'll get into the actual demonstration and show you how we can move these things back and forth. So let's go ahead and come over here to ConnectAll. Let me go ahead and start sharing my screen here. And there we go. So you should be able to see my ConnectAll screen now. And let's go ahead and talk about exactly what ConnectAll is. ConnectAll is a standalone platform. It's not a plugin, does not require you to plug anything into any of these tools. But what it does is it connects people, processes, and tools. So what that means is, historically you've used something like DOORS for your requirements management. DOORS has been around a long time. It's got a lot of, is great at managing these requirements, and it's very, has a lot of history in there, we should say. So as you're going along in your manufacturing process, and historically building things like airplanes or new cars, or however it is you're managing these actual physical goods requirements, we have kind of shifted into a new frame of mind, and software needs to be incorporated into all of that too. So it's not just about building a new car, it's about what all can we code in this new car. We've got things like self-driving cars out there. We've got cars with blind spot sensors. We've got all this computational stuff that goes into cars now, whereas traditionally it was really just, just build ourselves a frame and put doors on it and give it wheels and an engine and we're off to go. But now we've got all this other stuff we've got to hook in there too. So now we're trying to marry these two worlds. We're trying to marry this world of physical goods and put it together with the software world too. So we've got to get all these physical requirements, all these requirements for physical objects into something that is more commonly used for development. And so for something like that, a very common tool for that would be Jira. And so that's exactly what I'll show you today is how we can move those things over from one place to the next. Let's go ahead and log in here, and I'll start with this example. Right here, after we log into ConnectAll, you can see what we call our value stream. Now, if you're not familiar with value stream is a very hot topic with the analyst right now. It is all about kind of taking a step back and taking a look at everything that's going on within your development process, whether it's with planning or development or testing or change management, ITSM part of the world, monitoring, code scans, orchestration, all those different things all fit into our value stream. It all starts right here at the beginning where we're planning out what we're going to do. We're going to do that in DOORS today. So we have all these requirements for physical objects that then need to get over into our development tool. And then our developers will take those requirements and then break them down into the code that they're going to write. and then fulfill the requirements that are written over there in doors. It can go much past that. Then we have our QA team who's going to do those things. We have development teams that are going to do those things, and so on and so forth. But really today we'll just focus on getting the requirements over to Jira and then updating them back. So let's come over to doors now, and you can see that I've got a module over here in doors, and I'm going to go ahead and we're going to create ourselves a new object. We're going to say we're going to create a new requirement here, and we're going to say this requirement that the car should know my route by common behaviors. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and put in a text here. We're going to say something like, what's a good example here? So kind of pre-planning route based off of behaviors. We all know that Google kind of knows everywhere that we go now. So let's consider something along the lines of maybe, plan my route to work. Go ahead and click on that. All right, so now we've got ourselves a new requirement over here in doors. So what's going to happen now is I don't have to really do anything else. I've got this new requirement over here in doors, and this new requirement just sits here, and ConnectAll is periodically polling doors and looking for changes. Let's come back over here to our dashboard, and we can set up this poll to be whatever we want. We can set it up to be, once a minute. We can set it up to be once a day, once a month. We can set it up to an arbitrary time too if we want. I happen to have mine set up to once every day, and I'm pretty sure you guys don't want to wait until 2 o'clock in the morning to see this thing synchronize. In my case, my requirements don't synchronize very often. They're pretty much set in stone once we create them. So I'm going to come in here, and we're just going to go ahead and we're going to click sync now. So that goes ahead and does it by itself. Now, you don't typically have to do that. Again, I'm just doing that so you don't have to wait till 2 o'clock this morning to see that go through. Typically, it would just synchronize automatically there. We can see there on our dashboard something just happened. It just created a new story over in Jira. So if I come over here to Jira now, and let's refresh this, I can see that we've got ourselves a brand new story over here. Now, I created a story, but it could be something else. We could have created an epic. We could have created a different object type, like we could have had a custom object type, such as requirement, created over here as well. But the point is now I can start, I can see as a developer, I'm going to change hats. I'm a developer now, and I'm going to start fulfilling the requirements of this new story. We'll go ahead and get it into our backlog, start writing code against it, and so on and so forth. Now, we can update this on the way back too. We can go ahead and say using Google or Apple Maps. Now, we do have control over that. A lot of folks do just want one-way creation from doors to Jira. But just so you know, we can work in both directions. So what would happen now is that we could actually synchronize back. The next time ConnectAll polls, it would synchronize those changes back to doors as well. That's useful for things like the status. If we want to synchronize the status of this issue back to doors, we could do that. So that you can see back in your source system how things are progressing over there in our development system. So again, so we don't have to wait till 2 o'clock for this next one. I'm going to go ahead and we'll see that come back now. And then the next transaction we should see will be an update over here. There we go. There's our update back in doors. Let's come back over here now and refresh our view. And you can see that over here on the right, the details of this object, you can see some things over here. I can see the change that I made in Jira, and I can also see the key of the issue that I created over here in Jira. So the reason that ties into the traceability part that we've got here, and that's our first step with traceability. We don't have to synchronize that ID back and forth, but a lot of customers do like to see that. They want to see that this doors requirement traces exactly to this issue over here in Jira, and so we can do that. So that's kind of step one, getting this data flowing back and forth between these two tools. So as we can take it a step further too. We also have some analytics we can do in ConnectAll, and we can do drill down reports. So as this requirement flows from doors to Jira, and then we start to break down those requirements into other objects, we can start building all that stuff and putting it into a data warehouse, and then you can get drill down reports that actually show that connection as it goes from the source there, and how it's broken down into all the different object types below that. You can also do things like building lean metrics out of this, since we have control of the data that we're getting back and forth between these systems. And you can start looking at things like your lead time and your cycle time, and seeing how long it actually takes you to fulfill these requirements versus how long they have been in existence, and kind of look for breakdowns there. So that helps you in analyzing, and I can actually show you an example of that here. In our dashboard here, you can actually see some examples of cycle time versus lead time. This would actually help us to determine, well, these requirements have been in existence for a long time. We've got these requirements that have been open for 6 months, but we can see that it only took us, we have an average of 2-week cycle time. So, that tells us that we're probably agile, and our development team has actually successfully done their agile transformation. They're getting things coded fast, but we've still got a huge lead time of several months. Is there some approval process that we're getting bogged down in? Is there something in our release process that we're getting bogged down in? And looking into things like this, because we're synchronizing and we can start pulling this data back, things like this will allow us to kind of take a step back and start asking those bigger questions too, and start identifying other things within our value stream that can be improved on. Last thing I'll show you is that this is very straightforward to set up. If we come into ConnectAll here, I'm actually going to drill down into one page here. And I'll show you that this is very straightforward to actually configure something like this. The first thing we have to do, you can see there at the top, is we connect to both Doors and Jira. We just tell ConnectAll this is where we talk to Doors and where we talk to Jira. We can set the module that we're going to work with in Doors. So it's not going to synchronize every Doors requirement. You can apply some governance to this. You can say only synchronize this specific module. And you can go further than that. You can say only synchronize these specific requirements from this module. Maybe you only want to synchronize approved requirements. We could put in a filter like that. We could say, and we'll take those requirements and put them in a specific Jira project as a specific Jira type. So we set something like that up in here too. And then down here at the bottom, you can see where we actually set the field mapping. I only have a few fields mapped for mine because my Doors environment is not very robust, but I've just got a few fields in there. But you can see where I took a few things like the heading and the short text, and I can even work with custom fields on both sides too. So I had the absolute ID going from Doors to Jira, and I had the Jira key coming back into Doors as a custom attribute over there in Doors. We could definitely work with those. So it's a pretty straightforward 1, 2, 3 process. We add our connection, we set the scope of our integration, and then we set up our field mappings. And then once we've done that, ConnectAll runs automatically in the background and synchronizes these things between these two systems. All right, so Chris, that's pretty much what I'd like to show today. I kind of wanted to just kind of get into a little bit about, talk at a high level about what value stream management is, talk about the how we can get these requirements out of Doors for our traditionally physical goods and get them over into Jira so that we can start tracking code against those, and then showed a little bit about the traceability between the two, how we can get the IDs going back and forth. Then I wanted to show a little bit about the analytics we can get from this as well, and show some of the reports that we can gather. With that, I'll go ahead and stop sharing, and we'll take any questions that you have.
Great, thank you, Jonathan. We do have a few questions here. Our first one, can we use ConnectAll as a replacement for tools like Lucidchart or Visio to map out our value stream? It looks like we could, and talk more about that if you could, please.
I like that question. I'll be honest. I didn't really get into it too much, but the dashboard that you saw is configurable, and you can upload your own icons into it. So I'm not extremely familiar with all the details of Lucidchart and Visio, but yes, you can put your own icons, you can draw your own lines, you can do your own groupings, and really configure that value stream to be what you want it to look like. That then helps you communicate that value stream out to other team members or the powers that be, and allows those people to kind of take a step back and look at the stream as a whole.
Great. Our next question is, what's the difference between sync now and resync?
Okay, so the sync now is really just if we're going in there and setting something up for the first time, or if we don't want to wait, like I didn't want to wait till 2 a.m. That gives us the ability to do the poll immediately. We're saying, look for changes right now. Resync allows us to go back to a specific time period. ConnectAll is only going to look at things that have been recently modified. But if we want to go a little bit further back, I could say, doors show me all the requirements that have been updated since June 1st, rather than since the last time it polled. So we do have the ability to modify that timestamp, and that's what that's about.
Great, thank you. Here's another question. Do developers or testers have to go into ConnectAll for any reason?
No, they do not. So ConnectAll runs automatically in the background, and there's no interaction from the users themselves. As far as testers and developers are concerned, they just see the updates coming into their system. They can, and that allows them to, of course, work in their tool of choice without having to go into any external systems.
Okay. Our next question. We use Grafana for metrics and reporting. Can we use ConnectAll to port data into a MySQL database from a synchronization between Azure DevOps and Jira? I'd like to be able to track those types of metrics.
Yes, that's possible, and that's exactly what we're getting at with the metrics that I showed. We can pull these metrics from these different applications, such as Azure DevOps and Jira, put them into a MySQL database or SQL Server database, or other databases as well, and then use something like Grafana or Metabase or Power BI to build a report off of that.
Great. Let's see, our next question. Can ConnectAll integrate with any product with the REST API? I heard about your universal adapter. Can you tell me more, please?
Yes, and so that's a good call. I did not mention the universal adapter today, but that's the idea behind the universal adapter. If you want to integrate tools that are in your value stream that we do not necessarily have named adapters for, if there's a REST API or if it uses webhooks, then we're able to bring that in as well using our universal adapter with very little effort.
Great. Next question, can you sync between two doors instances, or do the integrations have to be between completely different tools?
They can be between two doors instances. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's see. If you have any other questions, please enter them in the questions panel. Okay, and our next question, if I'm in whichever tool, Jira or Doors, how can I tell if a requirement came over from Doors, if I'm in Jira, or vice versa?
Yeah, so we can synchronize those ID fields back and forth. And as I showed, we can synchronize that Jira key back into a custom field in Doors, or we can synchronize the Doors ID into a custom field in Jira. And then that gives you that first step of traceability to let you see that this issue is connected across two different systems.
Okay. See, our next question. Can Doors requirements be entered into an Atlassian Confluence page or be bidirectional?
We do have a Confluence adapter, and we can do some reporting in Confluence. to view those requirements. But what we would do is a one-way page from Confluence to Doors if you actually wanted to create it like that. So the two different kind of ways of thinking about that. But if you've got specific questions about the Confluence adapter, I'd be happy to schedule something with you and show you how that would work.
Great. All right. It looks like we've got one more question, and this is one of my favorite types of questions. Where do we sign up for an eval of your platform?
Sales@connectall.com. So yeah, we'd be happy to touch base with you and give you a more specific demo if you'd like. And then we can, if you like what you see and you like the demonstration, we could move on into an evaluation and let you actually try it out.
Great. Right. It looks like that is all the questions we have at the moment. So I will let you wrap it up, Jonathan.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. I'll give you a few minutes back in your day today, but again, what we kind of wanted to talk about was show how we can start to integrate these different systems from these historically different areas that we've been used to. Software is eating the world today. I know you've all heard that quote before, hopefully. Everything is software. I mean, we're kind of getting into the world where, I mean, you think about the apps that you download on your phone. If you don't like your banking app, you uninstall it, or you get about 30 seconds to decide whether or not you like something or you don't like it. And that includes things like even test driving cars. We look at the widgets and things that cars offer, and all the software that we have available in those things now. It's touching every single thing. Even my fridge is online, just to know if the door is open. So it's pretty crazy what we've got out there. So being able to get those hardware requirements out of a system like Doors and over into a more developer-centric tool like Jira is the first step in improving that value stream.
Great, thank you. We did have one last question come through, and it's what kind of system requirements does ConnectAll need?
So not a lot. We do have our system requirements listed on our wiki, but off the top of my head, it's not very big. It's a pretty small footprint. I'm actually running it on a VM on the laptop that I'm sharing with right now. So it's not very demanding, I should say. But typically we do support Windows and we support Linux. We do support typically about a 3 gig processor, 8 gigs of RAM, 30 gigs of hardware space. So not very big.
Thank you. All right. I think that wraps it up for today. Thank you, Jonathan. And thank you everyone for attending. Again, you will receive a notification when the recording is available on Bright Talk. Have a great day.
Y'all have a good one. Thanks.